Hi, this is Paul McGuire, and on this program we're going to continue our examination and expose of the dark secrets regarding the potential danger of 5G technology, not only to you as an individual, but to you as a parent, perhaps a mother, a father, an ordinary person, a single mother, whatever age you are. 5G technology represents a potential threat to your psychological being, your biological being, and many other parts of your body, soul, spirit being, and your environment. Yes, your environment. You know, you have all these people who say they're concerned about environmentalism. And all of us should be concerned about protecting the environment because God gave us that responsibility. He first gave it to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and they were to take care, to manage, not abuse or exploit the Garden of Eden, and the Garden of Eden, which was paradise. So a biblical Christian doesn't seek to exploit, abuse, or rape the planet. A biblical Christian doesn't worship planet Earth. I mean, I don't worship planet Earth as Gaia, some kind of female goddess, but I respect Earth because God created Earth for us to live in. Now, if we don't take care of business and pull the weeds out, so to speak, and get rid of the poisons and things like that, then we are becoming suicidal people, and we'll sow the wind and we'll reap the whirlwind. So let's talk about 5G. In the previous edition of the Paul McGuire Report, emergency report, because we have two programs. We have the daily 2-hour radio program, the Paul McGuire Report, and then we have the prophetic emergency alerts that are done in video, which you're watching now. In the previous edition of the prophetic emergency alert, we began to outline the dangers potentially and the benefits of 5G technology. So let's just start with this. Currently, as the need for communications transmission power has increased because there's been such a quantum increase in the number of cell phones being used, the number of laptops, the number of satellite televisions and wireless devices, wireless phones, and of course we live in what one head of one of our intelligence agencies called, and this was his words, we live in the Internet of Things. And he was essentially saying that we are now in the future, and we're very quickly going deeper into the future, where every technology you have in your home will have a wireless communications capability hooked up to centralized computers, which means your refrigerator, your washing machine, your dishwasher, don't think I'm joking, I'm not joking, they're deadly serious, your vacuum cleaner, everything you have that operates electronically will have the technological capability of surveillance upon you. Yeah, that's right. Of monitoring what's going on around it. So your refrigerator, I know some people are going to laugh and think I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. This is what the intelligence agencies have announced. Your refrigerator is going to spy on you. Your washing machine, your dryer, your vacuum. because it's going to have the capacity to video everything that it sees and record the audio of everything that it sees. So in the Internet of Things, every electronic device is constantly recording video and audio 24/7. And we're just like a heartbeat away, literally, maybe 6 months away to a year away from computer brain interfaces, which means that your brain can be read by your cell phone, your laptop, and potentially your vacuum cleaner. Now, I don't know why you'd want to put your head near your vacuum cleaner, but I'm being facetious. The vacuum cleaner could be, 4 feet away. But it will have the capacity to collect all kinds of data. And if you've been paying attention to all the recent developments on the internet, you understand that the internet is now moving into the territory of when you're like on your laptop or using some communications tool where your face or whatever is on camera, you're communicating with somebody by text or camera or whatever, or on your cell phone or any number of electronic devices. These electronic devices have already moved in to a new frontier that chances are you don't know about. Now, I explain these new frontiers of technology in my book, The Greatest Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Mankind in the History of the World, because they have an impact on your freedoms and my freedoms and the direction of society. But all of these innocuous electronic devices, like the cell phone, like your social media pages, etc., they now have the capacity of monitoring the specific brain waves, or what's called electromagnetic frequencies. So at any given moment, your body or your mind is generating a totally unique electromagnetic signal. And the electromagnetic signal that you generate as an individual human being is just as unique as your fingerprint or thumbprint. So if there's a computer, and there are computers, that are sifting a particular geographic territory, like security in the airport or wherever, they have the capacity to identify every person in any environment they choose, because every single person is generating a totally unique electromagnetic frequency, just like a fingerprint or a biometric ID, like when you see in the science fiction movies or whatever. They put their eyeball next to a screen and the door opens or locks depending upon the retina scan. So you may not realize it, but everywhere you go, you are generating like a field of electromagnetic power, an electromagnetic frequency that is precisely yours. And so from satellite, from other external computerized devices, you can be picked out and identified based on your unique electromagnetic frequency. And once a computerized device, let's say a satellite, artificial intelligence, some kind of robotic system, endless possibilities. Once this computerized system locks in on your unique electromagnetic frequency, it knows where you're going. It knows it can track you. It can monitor your moods, your emotions, your thoughts. It can read your mind to not necessarily a limited degree. Let's say it can read your mind. A more accurate statement would be it can read your mind to a substantial degree. Because you see, the exact degree by which these electronic devices can read your mind and your subconscious is classified. So we can only read the latest technological journals and scientific journals to get an approximation of how clearly this AI technology can read your mind. But I will tell you this, I've read some of it, and it's far clearer than you think it is. So let's say you're in a depressed mood, and you're working for some big corporation, and you're sitting at the laptop doing your work. Your laptop can read your EMF waves, which is your electromagnetic frequency waves. And remember that each EMF wave is a electronic frequency that represents a different state of consciousness. So if you're at the laptop and you have a smile on your face, theoretically, and some computer is reading your unique electromagnetic frequency, and it's also reading your state of consciousness and your emotional state. Let's say hypothetically you're emanating, in addition to your own unique electromagnetic frequency, you're generating what could be called a 10 Hz or a 10 Hertz signal. Okay, your employer or anybody most likely would be very happy with you, because 10 Hz is the EMF wave, the mind wave that's associated with positivism, happiness, a positive mental attitude, peace of mind, serenity, the ability to learn, the decline in cognitive ability to question, to doubt, to investigate. It puts you in a compliant, I believe whatever I'm told mode, which dictators love that mode. But you would be perceived by computer and profiled and classified by computer as being a happy, well-adjusted person, because your mental state and your biological state is resonating 10 Hz, which is like a happy state. That's why every television set is constantly broadcasting all programming in what's called a 10 Hz, also known as an alpha state. And it's a slight hypnotic state, and that's why people who spend a lot of time in front of the boob tube and you try to interrupt them, they look like they're in a trance state, like they've been hypnotized, like they're drugged, like you're trying to wake them up. So now let's just take this a step further. Let's say you're sitting in front of the laptop at some corporation working. Oh, by the way, so the laptop in conjunction with reading your EMF state is reading your biometric IDs and determining your mood, your thoughts, by making very microscopic calculations as to your eye movements, how wide open your pupil is. It's making all these very tiny microscopic calculations that are giveaways to your state of consciousness by reading your eyes and by reading your facial expressions, like does your eyelid go up to the left or right. These very subtle visual cues that reveal your state of consciousness that the human mind doesn't always gather. Artificial intelligence will be able to capture all of it in conjunction with your EMF wave state. Okay, so then let's say, hypothetically, you're at your job on the laptop and the computer system locks in. And by the way, employers are using this now, relatively widespread. Employers are using this technology now, but their employees have no idea that it's being used on them. Okay, so let's establish that. Okay, so let's say you are the computer locks in on your particular electromagnetic frequency signal, and then it reads your biological, your body, mind, spirit is generating a specific EMF, electromagnetic frequency wave, that corresponds to or reveals your state of consciousness or your mood or whatever. And let's say you're generating, and the computer can determine this by measuring the frequency you're emitting. Let's say you're emitting a beta frequency. Now, a beta frequency is a different mood, a different consciousness, a different mental state than alpha. If you're generating beta frequency, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of like you've had 10 cups of coffee. You're super responsible. You're diligent. You're precise. You're mathematical. You're very much in a place of critical focus, and you're very much in a place of a management mindset, and you're very much in a place of specific goal setting, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to self-modify or adjust my behavior to achieve measurable, realistic goals. And see, the beta frequency puts you in that state of consciousness, which can make you a very productive manager and employer. Now, let's just throw out one other state. In addition to those two states, there are numerous other electromagnetic frequency states. Some would be in the very, very high gamma range, other ranges. And some of these high gamma range states, according to experiments done by our U.S. military, open the door, and I'm not making this up. You can I have the documented proof in my book, the greatest battle for the hearts and minds of mankind in the history of the world. But our military has been experimenting on these levels of consciousness for years, and for example, Tibetan monks who have achieved a high state of consciousness called samadhi, blissful states, they're resonating. Their electromagnetic frequency that they're generating is at a very high gamma state, and they're in an altered state of consciousness of like mental power, transcendence, and also the opening up of the doors of the mind to the potential of psychic power, super intelligence, ESP, clairvoyance, and other things that you and I might consider to be occultic. But the fact of the matter remains that when a mind is operating at this high level of frequency, those doors of perception, or whatever you want to call them, they open up. And our military has done significant experimentation in these areas and use people trained in developing their psychic power through meditation and other things, and they hook them up to electronic enhancements, and they can, through biofeedback and other techniques, use mental telepathy. And you say, well, Paul, this is weird and weird. No, it's not weird. They have trained people literally to locate a hidden underground military base of the enemy through mental telepathy and other what we would classify as psychic powers. Now, that shouldn't surprise us as biblical Christians. We shouldn't be shocked by that, because if we go back, as I discussed in my book, The Greatest Battle, if we go back to ancient Babylon, or we go back to ancient Egypt, the advisors of the king of Babylon with Daniel the prophet, the advisors of the Pharaoh with Joseph. All the advisors of these emperors were deeply involved in the occult, magic, sorcery, clairvoyance, telepathy, and things like that. So we classify that as occultic, and it very much can be occultic. But then there's an area that we need to be very careful about, and that's the area of this, that God created mankind in the beginning, Adam and Eve. God gave Adam and Eve the supernatural power, the supernatural authority to govern or rule and reign over planet Earth, and specifically the Garden of Eden, which was paradise. Now, when God said to Adam and Eve, take care of the garden and all the rest of that stuff, take care of the animals, Adam and Eve were not shoveling piles of manure in the hot sun. They were using supernatural powers to maneuver and manipulate their environment. Why do we know that? Because God gave them the supernatural power to rule and reign planet Earth. The problem is, and most Christians either don't rightly divide the Word of God, or they're theologically lazy, or they rush to judgment, because there's two dangers. One danger is opening the door to what the Bible condemns as spiritism, demonology, the occult, false teachers, Satanism, witchcraft, etc., which the Bible forbids us to be involved with. And it's very, very dangerous. On the other hand, when it comes to mankind developing its highest potential, you developing your highest potential, or me developing my highest potential, there are any number of things that God would approve of that we can do to enhance our intelligence, our biological performance, our mental faculties, etc., etc. A couple of really easy no-brainers would be, are you exercising? What kind of exercising are you doing? What's your diet like? Are you eating the nutrients and the non-GMO foods? And there's many things that you can do easily that don't go into the area of the occult, which enhance your biological body, mind, spirit power that's pleasing to God, because you're taking care of the temple. You are temple of the Holy Spirit. And God expects us to use the mind of Christ. Most Christians have no idea what the term mind of Christ means. And therefore, I want to use this simply for the purpose of a metaphor. Think of the mind of Christ purely on the basis of metaphor, although the mind of Christ is very real. Think of the mind of Christ as advanced software, an advanced app that God has downloaded in the hearts and minds of every one of his people, every one of his children. And that if you access or activate or turn on the app that God has already downloaded in you, you will be able to function mentally with your logic, with your reason, with your perception. You will be able to function at a far, far higher level than the average person. Okay? Now, you would have to agree that that's possible, because it is possible, and people are doing it all the time. And like I said, nutrition, exercise, using your mind, reading, studying, builds new neurological pathways. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Did God create his people, especially in the last days, when we're right now in the middle of the greatest spiritual battle in the history of mankind? It is a raging battle all around us, and most Christians are completely oblivious or blind to it. It's as if their perception switch has been turned off or deactivated, and therefore they're useless to the Lord because they can't possibly fulfill the Great Commission. You need to spread this message far and wide. I'm Paul McGuire. Visit paulmcguire.us.